set of questions.
Thank you. Commissioner, there seems to be a bit of confusion recently about whether or not undercover officers can have sex with their targets. Because Scotland Yard has said that it condemns such behaviour and says it is not an authorised tactic. And at the same time, the lawyers in court are saying it might in some circumstances be necessary and proportionate to authorised undercover operative to engage in sexual contact, for example, to maintain cover, prevent serious crime and even save life. Can you tell me?
If it helps, I read the same reports of the week and I got a bit confused as well. So what maybe I'll tell you a bit more detail soon. I'm going to read something out which is unusual for me, because we've got a side issue which is about the reserved judgment in the Court of Appeal. And what I can't do is sort of go beyond that. So we try to get formulas which will be helpful. The first point is the one that we've said consistently, which is both for the Association of Chief Police Officers and for the Met. We do not have a policy.
You do not?
No, which I better get the phrasing of this right. We have a policy that says that our officers should not engage in sexual activity with targets or anyone else that they meet as a victim when they're serving, as a police officer. So,
when was that?
Do you mind if I just finish off this? Then, by all means, we'll take questions. We think there will be an appropriate point after the Court of Appeal decision where we can say a little more. We just generally think there is a need for transparency in this area. It is highly sensitive. One of the things we've got to consider is obviously for the undercover officers that it's a real and present threat about some of the things we have to deal with, which restricts to some extent the way we discuss some of the issues. But the only final point I've made is that I think we can say that there is a narrow point of consideration in the Court of Appeal case, which is about whether or not in law, as opposed to in policy or practice, it is at all possible for the RIPA Act to allow that type of activity, and it's that very narrow point that's being considered, which I think has led to the confusion. It has not at all disturbed our general policy, but there is a narrow point of law which is about some civil litigation that's going on, which is why I can't really talk too much about what the Court of Appeal is considering.
Okay, I have a couple of questions then. When did your policy get written, the one that says you should not have sex with a target?
When did it get written? I don't know.
No, is it recent or has it been? It's been around for a long time.
It's always been there. I mean, it's not a new thing. I mean, what we haven't got is a policy that says everything you can't do.
Yeah, but this is quite specific, isn't it? The level of interaction with people.
Well, it's got an awful lot of things. It doesn't say you can't drive it. I'm not going to make a list. You know what I mean?
Fine, all right. Can I move on then? Are you saying now it is not an authorised tactic?
Yes. And it's only repeating, as you know, what I said before.
Okay, that's fine. Because the Mayor has said several times that sexual relationships should not occur on an undercover project and so on.
And what I've said, what I also said at the same time, which had been misrepresented by a certain journalist, which was that when I acknowledge that human behaviour means that this is, you can't prevent this as human behaviour, I was saying this is what the boys do. I wasn't saying that at all. I was just saying that any policy cannot prevent human beings sometimes failing. What we need to know is if that should happen, an individual does have some sexual activity, that their manager knows, and we react to that. That's all I've ever said. Our policy is we should never send out people with this as part of our strategy. Does human behaviour sometimes allow this sort of thing to happen? Possible, but what we need is transparency when it happens. The individual involved lets us know, and we deal with it as a problem, but don't condemn. That's all I've ever said.
I think you're going to say it's very difficult to tell me this, but are you confident that it's not happening currently?
Yeah, I'm confident our policy says it shouldn't. Could I be absolutely confident it's never happened during my time as Commissioner? I can't say that. What I can tell you is that we've got things in place by supervision and monitoring to make our best attempt to make clear to our officers it shouldn't. If it does, to tell us and make sure that all our training is aimed towards that end. And they would have had to been reserved away from society to not for the last 2 years to see that has been said very clearly by all of us. So I'm confident of that. I can't be absolutely sure, Chair, that there's not been the odd digression, or there won't be in the future. But I do know there's less chance of it now than perhaps there was 20 years ago.
It's quite interesting what you say about RIPA, because I mean, personally, as somebody who's not a lawyer, I think that the margin there is wafer thin and perhaps not even there, not even existing. But Are you saying as well that you are currently sort of giving extra advice to officers who are undercover?
Yes, I mean, it was a natural consequence of the Mark Kennedy case and then the more recent case under Operation Hearn, that first of all we need a discussion for security reasons with the undercover officers involved, because some of them have been revealed. And number two is it's allowed to have a debate about some of the dilemmas they face from time to time, and to make sure that we enforce our managers what we expect of them. So that's been an indirect benefit of what's been an unfortunate series of events.
Okay, thank you.